to the recording. All right. So hello, welcome everyone. I'm Cindy, and this is our intro to Yoga for Allergy season. And this, I'm really excited about sharing this work with you because I have been a long time allergy sufferer, and it wasn't until I found yoga and kind of more holistic healing methods did I start actually being able to make it through without a lot of trouble. And I mean, I'm talking, I had allergy problems with medication. So I was medicating with the Claritin and the Allegra and everything. And there were still days where I was just out. I was just completely out and not enjoying life. So I'm going to throw a whole lot at you. It's going to be kind of the kitchen sink mentality. Here's all the stuff I've learned. But what you'll need to do is start figuring out what really works for you. So we're all a little bit different. I don't do all of these things all of the time anymore. I've kind of been able to hone it in and found what really works for me. But, you know, I talk to people. A lot of people in my life have allergy problems. So I know that some of these other things help them more. I think it has something to do with your constitution, what works well for you and what doesn't. So it really is going to be a little bit of trial and error to figure out what works best. So let's go ahead and get started with my share screen. You'll have to bear with me. I am new to this, but I practiced, so hopefully it'll work well. All right. So everybody can see my screen? Yes? Yeah. Okay, great. Fantastic. So today we're going to talk about all the many different ways of potentially helping yourself through allergy season. And first we have to kind of understand together what are allergies. I know that seems pretty simple, and you might already know this information, but I think that it's good for us all to start in the same with the same foundation. So really allergies are when pollen gets into your body and your system misidentifies those allergens as harmful. So your body starts to create antibodies and wants to fight the allergens. So you start to feel like you have just like a low-grade cold or a little bit of an illness. You can start to get really symptomatic, you know, and typically the symptoms can be things like a cold, right? So you've got a congestion and some maybe even hearing difficulties. Sometimes I had that where my ears didn't quite work well. You can get a headache and fatigue, but you can even have things like diarrhea and a fever. Sometimes people have actually had vomiting after allergies. And there are many things that we can do. And one of the ways that I learned, and this is actually from an allergist, this helped me understand more than ever the kinds of things that I need to do in order to reduce my exposure. And this is the bucket theory of allergens. So if you think about your body being able to handle most allergens most of the time, this is where bucket theory comes in. So let's say that you have just a little bit of an allergy to pet dander, and then you add on top of that maybe a little mold allergy. Those things are handled really, really well with your body. And then maybe you eat some strawberries and you have a little allergy to strawberries. Some people do, right? And then you add on top of that some wheat gluten, and then, your bucket's getting full. And then there's some dust. And maybe you're right here. You're at the very top of your personal bucket and you're fine. Your body's handling all of these allergens just fine. But here comes allergy season. You add on top of it tree and grass and flower pollen, and your bucket overflows. And when your bucket overflows, that's when you become symptomatic. So my mother-in-law, when she visits in the springtime, she has to take her watch off. She's fine in Vermont because those pollen or those allergens don't bother her in Vermont. But here, she gets a little bit of a itch around her watch. Just she's allergic to that metal because they've added on top of it the trees and the flower and the dust. So what can we do? What can we do to help us stay symptom free or minimize our symptoms? Well, minimize exposure to the things that make you allergic. We can also boost our immune system. That's one of the things that yoga is really, really good at. We can reduce our body's response to those allergens. Ayurveda has a lot of clues. We'll get into all of these. There's some pranayama that you can do to kind of get rid of the phlegm and to keep your body nice and warm, which tends to dry out that wet phlegminess. And then, of course, asana. And then minimizing exposure to pollen. This is a lot of information. This is all from an allergist, and you're not going to like all of them. I'm just going to tell you right now. You're going to see some of this and go, I am not interested. So, you know, I might be running through these quickly. I'm going to give you the highlights of this entire presentation in a one-page pamphlet. So you don't really have to write down all of these things unless you just want to. All right, so I'm going to send that out along with the replay link. So anyway, minimizing our exposure to pollen. You're not going to like it all. Don't open your windows in the car or in the house, especially in your bedroom. So your bedroom is your sanctuary. Your body heals a lot overnight. So the fewer allergens you can have in your bedroom, the better your body is going to repair itself. I know it's a bummer because it's one of the best times in Virginia to have the windows open, but it really does help. That's probably the number one thing, and that's why I put it first, that I do personally. And the windows down just blows extra pollen into your eyes, into your nose, into your mouth if you're singing loudly. I know sometimes it's worth it, but not always. All right, so that's where you have to start being choosy. Like, well, I need to be outside all day tomorrow. Maybe I shouldn't have my windows open today, or something to that effect. Bathe every night and wash your hair. I know not everybody can wash their hair every night because the hair is a little bit drier, but invest in a silk wrap or change your pillowcase every night. That's one way to help not have so much pollen in your eyes and in your nose and in your mouth, because you're not sleeping in it all night long, right? And multiple nights of not washing your hair, just more and more pollen is on your pillow, and you get more into your eyes and nose and mouth. Use your neti pot, saline wash out the nasal passages, or just get one of those sprayers that washes and flushes your nose, especially after you're coming in, getting ready for bed. Right? So anything we can do before bedtime is really helpful. Wash your face after being outside. Just washing off your eyebrows. I know that's a funny one, but you can get all kinds of pollen around your face. Morning pollen is the highest pollen count unless it's raining. So try to go out for your walk more after mid-morning or into the evening. Let someone else mow the lawn, do yard work. And wear sunglasses, especially when you're out walking and running, because again, the glasses, we've learned a lot from COVID, haven't we? Like you wear the glasses and it keeps things out of your eyes. Pets, if you have pets that spend a lot of time outside, you might not want to put them in your bed. I know, that one's a bummer. The idea of staying clean and allergen-free, again, change your clothes after you've been outside for a long time. Flowers, keep them outside of your bedroom, especially ones that you have a sensitivity to. I know in the fall, and it's our spring allergy plan, but in the fall, I can't bring in those ragweed. Yellow bloom, ooh, those are rough. Keep them outside, especially if you notice you're getting symptomatic around them. Use your HEPA filter in your house or in your room. If the room you're primarily spend a lot of time in, use a HEPA filter and make sure there's one on your vacuum, especially if you're allergic to dust. And don't eat outside. Again, I know it's a bummer because it's a really nice time to eat outside, but eating outside, you're just ingesting more of the pollen. And then reduce exposure to your known allergens. Go back to your bucket theory, right? So if you are trying to handle what you're already allergic to, then reduce the ones that you can avoid. Maybe you don't eat strawberries right now. Maybe you don't, or maybe you get extra pillowcase covers to handle the dust. Just reduce anything that you're allergic to as much as possible. So other ways that you can help be symptomatic or be free of symptoms is to boost your immunity and your body's allergy response. So these are all the different ways that you can do that. Rest, of course, because when we're resting, we're healing. And try to get about 6 hours a night. I know it's not always easy to do that, but if you're not able to sleep that long, then invest in some yoga nidra. There's some yoga nidra podcasts and things that you can get on your iPad and iPod so that you can actually get a good amount of rest. Restorative yoga, anything that is going to rejuvenate. We are going to do the Great Rejuvenator at the end of our time together today. And that is a #1 best thing you can do as far as restorative goes, because it's an inversion, which is good for the brain and keeping that fogginess away, but it's also really good at rejuvenating all of your energies. So building ojas, our next one. Ojas is the primary building block of health, and it goes along with prana, which you've probably heard of because we do pranayama in yoga practice. So prana is the air energy, and it's the energy of the higher mind. And then tejas, which is the fire energy, and that's your inner radiance. And then ojas, that's that building block of health. It's that nice, juicy, subtle energy that's like earth and water together. And things that build ojas are things like silence, which is why meditation is really important. Spending a little time just in the quiet. Also, there are certain tonics like Chyavanprash. Chyavanprash is a nutritive jam. It's an Ayurvedic jam. You can get it from Banyan Botanicals. I think it tastes a lot like figs, but it has herbs in it. It's supposed to help build your ojas. Then also eating right can help keep your ojas up. And final thing that really helps with ojas is the wise use of energy. You might remember that if you did yamas and niyamas with me. Brahmacharya, wise use of energy. So not going, and when you know you have to be outside a lot and you know you want to try and keep your prana or your ojas up, then maybe not doing all of the housework before you go outside, right? Because you're spending energy that way. And you want to have your energy for the things you enjoy. Not saying you never do housework, just maybe not on the day you have to be outside all day. You see how this works? I hope it becomes a little clear. Next thing is diet. We're going to talk about that soon. Oh, and massage. I missed massage. So massage is maybe you really like that idea. So some of the things maybe you'll like. So you can actually go and get a massage, which is helpful. You can also do self-massage. So that's an Ayurvedic practice called Abhyanga, and you put oil on your skin and you rub, and you can do that every day. I do it every day. I love it. It has changed my life. Or you can do it just a few times a week. But anytime that you're massaging, you are moving lymph. And lymph is the system that filters out the toxins and microbes and things like pollen that is an invader to your body. So you want to keep your lymph moving, and it helps to keep that lymph going. Diet and supplements. We're going to talk about all these last few things in future slides. So acupressure, acupuncture, yoga asana, and pranayama. Those are all things that help to boost immunity and reduce your allergen response. So for diet, first of all, let me just say, if you are going to change your diet or experiment, especially if you're going to experiment with supplements, please talk to your doctor first, because some supplements don't go well with certain medications. So definitely, if you want to try something, if it sounds good to you, discuss it with your doctor, because I am not a doctor. So the first thing is to drink plenty of water, right? So when you drink lots of water, it just helps to, again, reduce the stickiness of the phlegm. Ah, yes, thank you, Valerie. So Valerie asked about dry brushing. Dry brushing also moves the lymph. Yeah, absolutely. So that goes along with the self-massage. In Ayurveda, you would dry brush, and then you would also massage. You also do the oil massage, and both together, especially right now, is just, yeah, great practice. And I do that practice. I didn't put it in this, yeah. So thank you for mentioning that. That's very helpful. So yeah, when we drink lots of water, it helps to keep the phlegm nice and watered down, right? So it moves more easily. And then, whoops, hold on. There. New to this. Eat bioflavonoid rich foods. So bioflavonoids are foods such as blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, and purple grape juice. So those dark colored berries. We talked about Chyavanprash already. That's how you spell it, Chyavanprash. Again, it's a nutritive jam. You just can eat it off the spoon, like a teaspoonful, or you can spread it onto toast as an actual jam. It is not everyone's favorite, and all brands taste a little bit differently. I like the banyan, but again, you have to like that figgy taste. So maybe not if you don't. So according to Ayurveda, astringent, pungent, and bitter foods. So these types of foods are the ones that are going to help dry. So again, trying to reduce the water element that's so prevalent when we start getting phlegmy. The bitterness also creates a lightness, and it's cleansing. So different things, or the different foods that fit under these categories, just to give you an idea. Astringent foods are the foods that kind of taste dry while you eat them. You may have experienced it while having walnuts, pomegranates, cranberries, a really tart apple, or a green banana. Like all of those things, after you're done eating, there's just a little bit of dryness on the tongue. Strawberries can do that to an extent too. You know, they're really juicy, but when you're done eating them, you feel that little bit of dryness on the tongue. So that's an astringent food. The pungent foods are your black pepper, added to everything this time of year. It's a good thing to add. Easiest source that's around. Also, just in general, most peppers are considered pungent. So is cinnamon, paprika, and fresh ginger. Ayurveda always recommends fresh ginger over powdered. There's a place for powdered, but usually it's just a little bit too hot. So if you have that tendency towards pitta, that heating energy, that fire energy, you don't want to go into ground ginger, dry ginger. Use the fresh. It's much better. Your bitterness, those are dark leafy greens, coffee, yay, okay this time of year, black tea, artichokes, cilantro, beets, and Brussels sprouts. So anything that tastes bitter on the tongue is going to be that bitter taste. And these are these foods that you really want to stick to this time of year. There are 6 tastes in Ayurveda. I'll just mention the other 3 are sweet, salty, and sour. We tend to get plenty of those all throughout the year in the American diet. Try to add these others. Okay, so this is the time for astringent, pungent, and bitter. Consider minimizing gluten. Normally, I can eat as much bread as I want. I don't have that gluten intolerance until this time of year. So maybe I do. Maybe my bucket is handling my gluten most of the year, but there is evidence that shows there's a certain enzyme in your digestive system that increases over the winter months. So over the colder months, you can actually digest gluten more easily. It's called amylase, and amylase, there's just more of it available during the winter. So you tend to be able to digest that gluten. And they believe it's because of evolution. You know, during the winter, there was less food available. So we started to be able to develop this enzyme that helps to digest the gluten. Okay. Yes. I'm going to get to dairy. Thank you. Yeah, so minimize gluten. That is definitely one that you might want to try. I start just tracking and making sure I'm not eating it more than once a day. That's what works for me this time of year. Here's the other things you want to avoid: fat, sugar, dairy, fried foods, anything heavy or rich. And again, this goes back to Ayurveda, because Kapha season, the season where we get a lot more water, we're a lot more phlegmy. It's springtime, not just because of the pollen we're getting this phlegmy, we're getting it because it's in our environment too. And when you eat these things that are kind of heavy and rich, and dairy is one of them, that's a little bit harder to, the energy, the qualities of those foods bog you down. And you're just not going to feel your best when you have these things that your body has to digest. Yeah. So definitely dairy, especially if you're sensitive, give it a try. I certainly reduce my dairy most of this time of year, and I never have ice cream. I know. Yeah. So ice cream, if you're going to do it in the middle of summer to the end of summer, because it's balancing. So Ayurveda is you're balancing, opposite balance. So when we're in the heat of summer, you can have that cold, heavy food and you're going to digest it well and you're going to still feel okay. But when you have that heavy, dense, creamy, cold substance, and then you expect your body to digest it and still feel okay, it's just hard. It's hard for your body to do that unless you have a really rockin' digestive system, which some of us do. Some of us don't have these fluctuations in digestion, but yeah, so we would definitely recommend not having those things right now. And then this is just the list of supplements. So ashwagandha is another Ayurvedic herb, and it is supposed to help strengthen your overall constitution. So it is a substance called an adaptogen, and it's supposed to help your energy adapt to whatever it's lacking, basically. Your vitamin B is what supports adrenal function and strengthens the immune system. Your bioflavonoids, we talked about those. Vitamin C is supposed to be helps reduce inflammation in many, many different ways. So your vitamin C, you can have, according to Dr. Wheel, what was the name of that book? Oh, that was an old book, 8 Weeks to Optimum Health. There it is. If you ever saw that book, he talks about having a massive amount of vitamin C. Now, the problem with lots and lots of vitamin C is it can give you digestive trouble. So 1,000 milligrams, we usually do okay with. So you can do that. Garlic has antibacterial properties that might help a chronic running nose. Echinacea and golden seal, usually if you can get those in combination, those are a really good one to take. And again, that's an immunity booster. And echinacea, we recommend taking 1 week on, 1 week off, so you don't ever lose the effects of the immunity building, because it is supposed to be diminishing effects over time. So you want to kind of come in on and off of that, 1 week on, 1 week off. Then nettle or ginger tea. And then finally, turmeric. It's an active anti-inflammatory. It also has a pungent, bitter taste. So it fits in that category too. Okay. All right. So are there any questions about what we've gone over so far? You can put them in the chat or raise your hand. No. Okay. So we're going to do a little something. So this is the acupressure portion. And acupressure, I found that it really does, if I can remember to do it, if I'm in the middle of symptoms, it can really start to help me feel better. So the first thing is the 4 gates, and the 4 gates help to calm your nervous system. And it's generally, most acupressure starts with these 4 gates just at the very beginning. It's like a good way to start. And you might have even done them with me in class. So the first gate, either hand, you're going to press in this space. Let me get close enough. In this space between your first finger and thumb, but down into the soft part of the joint. So right in this area. So you can feel the bone of the thumb and the bone of the first finger, and you go right into the valley and you give it a press. And you can try poking around in this whole area, this whole V, and see if you find a tender spot. And if you find a tender spot, then that is probably some blocked energy. According to acupressure, you would feel tenderness or tightness or pain because of blocked energy. So that's what you're looking for. And if you don't have any, just press somewhere that seems right. And then you can hold and take some deep breaths. You can inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. You can do that a few times. And you can either hold with steady pressure, or you can do a light rubbing, going back and forth slightly. And usually you hold these for about 15 seconds to 30 seconds. You can go longer if you want to. We're going to keep moving on. Go to the other hand, same place. Okay, so just on the other hand, same place, right in that V between the first finger and thumb, and you're just going to press. And while you're pressing, find that tender spot, stay on that, and you'll breathe. Nice deep breath in. All right, so that is the 2 of the 4 gates. Now, the last 2 gates of the 4 gates are on your feet. So I'm bringing my feet up. Similar to what we did in the hand, between the big toe and the first toe, you just press down into that V between the bones. And it's beyond the knuckles, so it is more up into the foot, the metatarsals. And sometimes you'll get a little tenderness here too. So is that okay? Can you see that? And you can do them both together if you can reach to your feet together. But if it's difficult, just do one at a time like we did before. And you're just going to press and take some breaths. And if you're still on one side, go ahead and move over to the other side. And you can do these every day just for overall health, these 4 gates. You're supposed to help your whole nervous system. So they're safe to do anytime. Okay, let's move on. All the points in acupuncture and acupressure have names that relate to organs, because in Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, they believe that the energy pathways, we call them nadis in yoga, they all end up and correspond to organs. So this is gallbladder 20, and it is to help relieve head congestion. So if you take your thumb to the base of your skull, right next to your spine, so you can feel how those big muscles on either side of the spine kind of press out. And then if you start just pressing outwards, so moving your thumbs away from your spine slightly, you might find those hollows between the skull and the neck. Okay, so it's outside of the really fibrous muscles on either side of your spine, and it's not quite out to the far side of the neck, but there's a couple of places that feel like they're hollows, and you might have tenderness there if you're already having some head congestion, which I currently am because I had a cold 2 weeks ago. It was not COVID. I got tested multiple times, but so anytime you have head congestion, you can use this. And you're just going to, just like you did before when you were doing the 4 gates, you can take a nice deep breath in and exhale. And you can either press lightly or rub in little baby circles. All right, let's move on. So large intestine 4 is also for head congestion, and I find it's really good for headaches too. So it's on your forehead, and if you would look straight ahead and you imagine your eyes being straight forward, it's right above your straightforward eyes, above the eyebrows. So for me, it's like right here. And it's almost always tender for me. So kind of press around right in the center. It lines up with the center of your eye when your eyes are looking straight forward. It's above the brow line, on the forehead. And then if you find that tenderness, again, you're looking for that. If you don't find tenderness, you can go out, you can go in, you can go up, down, search for it. And then if you don't have it, lucky you. Just choose where you think it might be and breathe. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So large intestinal 11. So this is one that reduces the severity of allergic reactions. So if you're in it, if you're having a sneezing fit, if your eyes are just really, really itching, this can help with that. This is the one in the crook of the elbow. Actually, let me take off my long sleeves here so I can show you a little better. All right, so there's my elbow. So the line from the elbow crease, you know, it goes down to the elbow point. It's inside that line on the forearm. So right between the two muscles, there's a spot that is like an indentation, and sometimes it can be quite tender. So it's on the forearm itself. So those are just indicate or landmarks. So from the line to the elbow, that's one line. It's on this side of the line, about right here, about right there. And there's a hollow, again, between the two muscles. Yeah. So just a little bit more down, Eileen. Yeah. Yeah. Good. So if you feel tenderness, again, that's where you want to go. And that's on both sides. So I try the other elbow. If you've done one side, try the other one. For me, one side usually is a little more tender than the other. And you can give it a little massage there as you breathe. Okay. So our final one is large intestine 20, and that clears the nose and decreases your sinus congestion. So it's right at the base of your nose, but out towards your cheekbones. So from the base of your nose, you just press to your cheekbones and then pushing there as you breathe. This is the same spot I sometimes pull into when I'm trying to breathe. You ever done that? It's kind of like your own personal breathe right strip, you know, when you flare your nostrils out. And this is just with your hands. Good. Okay. So moving on to Ayurveda and yoga. So the things that we do in our yoga practice are twists and ab work to keep your belly strong. The belly is the place of your Agni, which is the digestive fire. And according to Ayurveda, everything that you bring in has to be digested. It has to be either eliminated or assimilated. And that's not just food. That's things you bring in with your eyes, things you bring in with your ears, you know, the TV news, gossip, like all of those things count, okay? And you have to digest them. So again, if your Agni, if your digestive fire isn't really, really strong, then you want to be a little more careful with what you bring in. If your digestive fire is strong, everything digests great, but usually that's not the case for most of us, right? So when we help to increase digestion with these twists and ab work, we also start to reduce some of that kapha with heating poses. So your chair pose, your sun salutations, warriors, those are all really good to do this time of year. You can start to relieve your sinuses with some inversions and some supported forward bends. If you can stand it, just reduce, changing your relationship to gravity, getting your head below your heart is considered an inversion, and it can really start to help get things moving through your head and sinuses. You boost your immunity with restoratives. More time you can spend paying attention to how you're feeling and lying in a pose, then the better off you are. The breathing practices, Kapalabhati or Bhastrika, that's skull shining breath or bellows breath. And those are the really strong breaths out of the nose, either strong in and out or just strong out. And those help to reduce phlegm. They're also very heating. Nadi Shodhana is alternate nostril breath. And then we're going to actually do this meditation on the navel center that's going to help us have a stronger Agni. All right. So what's next? All right. So those of you who were hoping to do a lot of asanas today, I'm sorry, I didn't make it as clear as I wanted to, that this was the information that I just want everyone to have because it's really helpful for me. If you're looking for that asana practice, I'm going to do a workshop, another workshop, this one with asana, with the pranayama on Saturday the 5th from 10 to 11:30. It is $35, but because you came today, you use the coupon code Allergy10 and you'll receive $10 off of that workshop. And I will send the coupon code out too. Hopefully it works. Again, everything's new to me now, so see if I can get everything to work. All right, so those are all, that's my kitchen sink list of things that we can do to help not be symptomatic. Are there any questions? What questions do you have? Anyone have anything they want to add or ask? And it's okay if you don't. All right, so let's do just a little bit of something to get us moving. So if you want to stand up first and do a little bit of just stretching on your own, stretching the legs out, you could do that. And then if you could sit on the floor, I'm going to sit on the floor, but you can go back to sitting in your chair. We're going to do a couple of things that are examples of how we can help ourselves with yoga. So the first thing we'll do, it'll look familiar to you, but we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to do our cat-cow, our seated cat-cow. So this is the one we often start with, almost always, with either crossed legs or knees bent and feet wide, holding under the knees. And we're going to inhale to stretch the spine forward. And then as we exhale, we're going to curl the spine back and feel like you're pulling your navel back with a big, strong exhale. So you actually start to make a little bit of that Kapalabhati or that Bhastrika breath. So when you exhale, you pull back, inhale forward. Pull back as you exhale. Inhale forward. If you're having trouble getting that strong exhale by contracting your abdominals, then use your hand. You can use your fist or just a flat palm against your navel and push in. Feel the air expel out of your nose. And when you feel you've gotten that exhale down, that strong exhalation right at the navel center, then sit up nice and tall and just do a few rounds of your Bhastrika by pulling the navel back and then letting it press forward. And then let's inhale deeply. Exhale completely. Good. And then let's take a twist, just turning to one side. Prop yourself with your hands. Inhale as we come back through center. Exhale, twist to the other side. Twists are really good for digestion. They give a gentle massage to the digestive organs. And they're really good for our energy too, because they basically wring out the spine. And we can think of them as doing that. Not exactly. The spine doesn't ring like a towel, but it's very similar effect. Good. Let's inhale, come on back to center. All right. So now we're going to go into Viparita Karani. So I'm going to show you two options for the Great Rejuvenator. And the reason I want to show this is because it's in the name. It's a rejuvenator, right? So we do it often, but for those of you who aren't always with me in class, this is the one where the simplest way is to lie down with a chair by your feet and then bring that chair under your legs. So this is it. So this is one option. You could also, if you're good at getting next to the wall, you can put your legs up into a wall. You could use the couch instead of this folding chair like I have. Any of these are options for you, but you want to be able to make sure your hips are all the way on the floor. So if the legs are up too high, it might feel like the hips are hovering. You don't want that. You want the hips to settle down, the whole back against the floor. Your other option, if you don't want to do that, is if you have your blocks. This is more like the traditional pose. You come through bridge, you pile your blocks beneath the pelvis, roll the shoulders under, and then take the feet up. So this is your other option. So take one of those options and we'll just spend the last couple of minutes that we have together in Viparita Karani. So feel yourself soften and relax. You can use this pose throughout the day. Anytime you're starting to feel your energy level dip. Because remember, when you're fighting pollen, it's basically like you have a little illness. So your energy is not going to be as high as it usually is, or it might not be as high. Maybe it will be. I hope when you do some of these things, it will be. But taking a little time for rest throughout the day might be a good part of your plan, some of your strategy for taking care of yourself. It's amazing you can do this kind of thing and then have a great afternoon. You can notice your energy level comes up after this. A lot of trial and error and finding out what works best for you. Let's take another nice deep breath in and a full breath out. And then you'll gradually start to make your way out of the pose, unless, of course, you would like to stay longer. But I want to be mindful and respectful of your time here in this lunchtime workshop. I know we're just about, yes, we are just about out of time. So I want to thank you all who were here with me live today. Thank you for those of you viewing the recording. And I hope that you will join me for more asana and pranayama around allergies in our workshop on the 5th. All right. Thank you all.